Y'all ready? Yeah. Let's go. Come on.
Tiger Rag Radio is on the air.
Let's crank this thing up.
We're statewide, breaking down the latest happenings with LSU Athletics.
This is us.
Hear from the coaches.
Our time is now with LSU basketball.
The players.
Having fun and we working, baby. That's it, baby.
The recruits.
One way or another, we're going to make history.
And those who cover the Fighting Tigers of LSU and the SEC.
LSU is the best job in football.
It's 2 hours of nonstop LSU talk.
I came here to win. We're going to win immediately.
Tiger Rag Radio is brought to you by Cummins. Cummins creates power solutions that the world depends on. Louisiana Beef Industry Council, Boudreaux's Electrical Services, and Louisiana Farm Bureau Federation. Get ready to talk Tigers with producer Case Kieschnick and our hosts, Todd Horn, Jeff Palermo, and Glenn Gilbo.
Players that are better people than they are players.
This is Tiger Rag Radio.
And good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Tiger Rag Radio. Jeff Palermo along with the editor for Tiger Rag Magazine, Glenn Gilbo. Todd Horn has the night off, and Case Kieschnick, our producer. And we're glad you can be a part of our show here tonight because we're going to spend a lot of time talking about an iconic figure in LSU athletics and in the university in general, and that is Skip Bertman, who, of course, passed away last Friday at the age of 88 after battling heart issues. Of course, our own Glenn Gilbo wrote the biography of Skip, Everything Matters in Baseball, the Skip Bertman story. So we're going to have some terrific guests on over the next couple of hours. Ryan Theriot, Doug Thomspon, Todd Walker, D-D Breaux. We'll also hear from Mark Etheridge of D1 Baseball. We'll all get some great thoughts on what Skip meant to them personally, what he meant to the university, the athletic department, and so many student athletes that came through that school. We'll also talk a little football. We'll probably get into a little bit on the Jaden Daniels drama, even though I think that's been pretty much played out, and we'll get into some maybe other topics as well. We're getting close to the start of a new school year. In fact, Monday, and there are still just 4 official LSU men's basketball players on the roster, so we may just we may touch on that as well. But we really want
keyword official.
Yeah, official. There's a bunch of other guys that are out there that appear to be heading to LSU or will be playing for the Tigers, but we honestly still do not know. But figured we dedicate this show to Skip Bertman, and Glenn, you got the opportunity to know him at a level that many people did not get to know him. And that is, you wrote a book with the man. What was that experience like?
Well, it was a lot of fun. I mean, I would say it was one of the highlights of my sports writing days to get to do that book, and it made it easier to do the book since I lived through it. You know,
right.
I didn't have to study a lot, though I did have to catch up somewhat and get the details right. But no, sitting with Skip at his kitchen table. For many times over about 2 or 3 years, interviewing him over various periods of his career, often with Dan Canterbury standing there too. Yeah, it was just a lot of fun and very informative. And Skip had such an impressive memory and mind, and he was always the smartest guy in the room. When him and Saban were in the same room, it was close, but and he really liked Saban a lot, and vice versa. But it was just really a treasure to get to interview him so much, and then sitting next to him for a lot of the book signings outside Alex Box and at a couple of Barnes and Nobles and at a small Catholic girls' school outside Lafayette that we got was for Christmas, which was pretty good, but. He was just a fun guy to be around, and I'm really going to miss him.
And again, the book, Everything Matters in Baseball, the Skip Bertman story. Going back to it and going through the book, and as you mentioned, you lived through it. You covered a lot of Skip's teams. What were maybe a couple things that when you went into the book and you said, you know what, I didn't really know this about Skip?
Yeah, it was amazing how many players, without being asked, would bring up the fact that Skip could tell the future in games. You know, like this guy, the other pitcher, he's going to be done in the 4th inning, or or this guy right here, the way he's swinging, he's going to pop up to second base, or you might go 0 for 3 in this game, Brad Cressy, but you'll get a hit in the last inning. I mean, he said stuff like that.
Doug Thompson's got a story like that. We'll have him, when we get him on later on in this hour, we'll have him recite that story as well. He had something very similar when Doug had a very bad outing. I believe it was against Alabama.
Right.
And he pulled Doug early and said, "I'm going to need you tomorrow."
Yeah, exactly.
And Doug was like, "What are you talking about?"
This game's over. Yeah, that's in the book. Yeah. It really is uncanny, and it didn't just happen a couple of times. I mean, it happened a lot. He just really knew the game so well. I mean, he was coaching when he was 12, in youth leagues, and he just always did it. So he was just a brilliant guy.
And when he became athletic director, and I wasn't around in the 90s, I was living in a different state, I got to know Skip more. I covered his last season here, which I really am glad that I was here for at least one season to get a sense of what it was like and to interact with him in post-game interviews and so forth. But I knew him more as the athletic director. And I still think, and I know Nick Saban talked about it, on Matt Moscona's show last Friday, when good get there by Matt to get Coach Saban on. But for Skip to get the Tradition Fund approved and get it approved by the LSU Board of Supervisors and get that in place, which changed how LSU athletics is funded. And it really put LSU, as Nick said in the interview, it put LSU towards a path of success because LSU was so far behind the other schools when it came to funding athletic programs because they didn't have a personal seat license or the Tradition Fund, as LSU would call it.
Yeah, they were exaggerating, but Skip used to say, "We can't do any more cake sales." We got to go big time. We can't have car washes. Like at that high school and Bring It On. They actually had to come up with a sophisticated financial stream, which they're doing now. Again, somewhat different, But yeah, Alabama had already had a ticket revenue plan for several years before LSU got theirs going, and Skip and Dan Radakovich and Herb Vincent and Scott Woodward, and Verge Osbury, they all got
Mark
that.
Mark Emmert, I guess, into it as well.
Mark Emmert was too, and they were planning it for a couple of years, and timely hitting. Skip always said they sold it in August of 2003 to everybody. There was a lot of people disagreeing with it. The board voted for it, and then they won the national championship, and they sent out ticket order sales 2 weeks later. Yeah. So it worked like a dream.
Yes, it did. It did. It certainly did. And as many people said, it was really the only person that could have maybe gotten that thing across the finish line, if you would, or across the goal line was Skip.
Right.
Because people trusted him that this was the right thing to do.
And Skip just had a lot of charm. He that's why he was so well liked. He knew how to speak to people with respect, and he could be funny, and he just had the personality that some athletic directors at LSU over the years that they just didn't have, and they got unpopular, even though they weren't bad guys. They just didn't know how to do it in public. And Skip was just a master at speaking to people. Of course, that's all he had been doing since '83 when he took over. He was speaking to Kiwanis clubs and what have you about baseball. So he was just a natural speaker. Yeah,
you couldn't go from one personality like Skip Bertman to Joe Oliva. Two different people.
No question.
And that's I think what hurt Joe quite a bit during his time. Because Skip was a guy I could call on the cell phone. Hey, Skip, tell me about what you think about this. Joe Oliva, you got to go through 6 people before you eventually get a hold of him.
Yeah, exactly.
And that, to me, is something that I'll always also respect out of him as well. I mean, he'd be driving around, you call him up, Skip, what do you think about this? Well, then he'd give you 7 minutes of great audio of it, and the transparency of it was awesome. Well, let's take our first break here, Glenn, and we'll get to our first guest, and it's going to be former LSU middle infielder Ryan Theriot, who, of course, was on Skip's last national championship team. We'll talk to the Riot when we come back here on Tiger Rag Radio.
I'm Richard Fontenot, president of the Louisiana Farm Bureau Federation. My brother and I grow rice, soybeans, and raise crawfish on our farm in Evangeline Parish. For a fourth-generation farmer like myself, Louisiana Farm Bureau is as much a part of my life as checking traps or harvesting rice. Our organization is more than 145,000 members strong, and we've been around for more than 100 years. The Louisiana Farm Bureau spans generations, and we want you to join our family.
Visit lafarmbureau.org. The Louisiana Farm Bureau Federation, the voice of Louisiana agriculture.
Now more Tiger Rag Radio.
All right, we're back here on Tiger Rag Radio. Jeff Palermo along with the editor for Tiger Rag Magazine, Glenn Gilbo, and Case Kieschnick, our producer. Let's bring in our first guest as we're spending most of the show talking about one of the most influential people that have ever been involved with the LSU campus, and that is Skip Bertman. Ryan Theriot played for Skip, was on Skip's last national championship team in 2000, and Ryan joins us here on Tiger Rag Radio. Ryan, thanks a lot for spending some time with us tonight. How you doing?
My pleasure, guys. Thank y'all for having me.
Well, it's great to have you on. You know, you were a Baton Rouge kid, so did you have any interaction with Skip before you got on campus, and what was it like after kind of growing up and seeing and hearing about this guy, and then all of a sudden, you know, as you're a freshman at LSU, he's your head coach?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, I grew up going to coaches' baseball camps out at Alec Box. I have a picture of me when I was 5 years old sitting on his knee at my mom's house. And then Skip Bertman's Grand Slam over there in the Industrialplex was a staple for us. You know, I'd spent many hours in there hitting off of his pitching machines that he had in there. So, you know, I was very familiar with Skip. And then, you know, growing up here in Baton Rouge, man, the few classes ahead of me, you know, those guys were my idols, the Patrick Coogans of the world, and Ben McDonald, and, you know, Dan Guillory and Russ Johnson, and, you know, the list goes on and on. But being familiar with those guys, it was just such a pleasure to you know, to live out everybody's dream, truthfully, that's from Baton Rouge, and that's to play for the Tigers.
Ryan, hey, this is Glenn. Thanks for joining us, man.
Hey, Glenn.
Does anything like really stick out in your mind that he told you advice-wise, maybe as a player or after your playing days?
You know, obviously losing Skip hurts, and very influential in my life as well as many others. You know, I'm not the only one, right? But since Skip's passing, man, I've really reflected, Glenn, on kind of some of his core principles and things that he lived his life by, and he coached his teams by, and, you know, trust and love for your teammates, and you know, respect for everybody, and then, you know, the visualization piece that you know, all three of those things translate into everyday life. And, you know, Skip used them to win baseball games, but, you know, in reality, I think he was teaching us some life skills that are just second to none. You know, as far as anything in particular, you know, he held me to a high standard personally. You know, I can't think of one instance where he said something, the light bulb just went off, because, I mean, Glenn, you've been around him. It was every day, you know, I mean, there was something every day that you could write down in a journal and then read it every morning. So, but it has given me a chance to reflect on that. I mean, we all have our lives to live, and you get, as further away you get from being a player, you know, the more you kind of forget those things. But, you know, the last week or so, I mean, I've really been kind of reflecting on that, and it's amazing how he influenced me.
Talking to Ryan Theriot here on Tiger Rag Radio. Well, speaking of visualization, Ryan, that was so big on that 2000 team. And I remember I was just rereading your quotes in the Skip book where you scored the winning run in the 2000 national championship game, and you threw your helmet almost exactly like Armando Rios threw his when he scored in 1993. It's almost subliminal because you had seen those highlights so many times, like in the locker room.
Yeah. I mean, you know, everybody knows the famous quote, right? But it was real. I mean, he was very intentional on us seeing success and seeing ourselves, you know, winning, right? Doing what it is that we've been working so hard for and so hard on. And, you know, when I say intentional, you know, Omaha was mentioned all the time. You know, also, telling your parents you loved them and thank you was mentioned, literally every day. Telling your maker that you love him and thanking him was mentioned every day. And, when you mention those things, you start to visualize those as well. And look, that's a powerful tool. If you get a group of guys all visualizing success at the same time, man, that's pretty powerful.
Talking with former LSU middle infielder Ryan Theriot, member of the 2000 National Championship team. During that season, Ryan, was there a lot of pressure on you guys because you knew, or did you know that Skip's tenure as the head coach was coming to an end here very soon, or was there a moment during that season that, and as you know, every baseball season has its different adversity. Mm-hmm. Was there something that happened in that year that, because of Skip, he really helped guide you through it?
Man, listen, I've had the pleasure of playing for some elite, high level managers, starting with Skip and Dusty Baker, Lou Piniella, Tony La Russa, Joe Torre, Bruce Bochy. All these guys are going to be in the Hall of Fame. They all had one thing in common, and that was making sure that you believed you could win every single game that you played. That season in 2000, I think we all kind of knew it was getting close to the end, but Skip told us, my recruiting class, that we were going to be his last class. Now, did that mean, my junior year he was leaving, or my, would have been my senior year? But there wasn't any indication that he was going to be going anywhere in 2000. But in 2001, for sure, we all knew every away trip that we went to, they gave him a present, and it was kind of his going away tour, which he earned every single bit of that. But no, that 2000 year, man, I think it kind of could have gone either way. But in 01 for sure, yeah.
Well, Ryan, the one of my favorite moments of that national championship weekend in 2000, the day before the national championship game, Skip was saying, Brad Cressy might go 0 for 3, but he's going to get a hit in his last at bat. And he said, don't take a check swing, wail at it. So my question is, you were on second base when Brad got the single. Did you even look at the third base coach before you ran it there?
Yeah.
Bill Daly.
Yeah. No, Bill and I joke about that all the time. I actually talked to him today. No, I didn't, man. I mean, listen, that's the moment you dream for. If you're Brad, that's the moment that you dream of. And if you're me, with the opportunity to score, I mean, absolutely not. Glenn, you covered me. I'm going to make mistakes. Trust me. That's a thing that I do. But I'm going to make them aggressively, And so there was never a thought of checking up there and staying at third base and letting somebody else score the winning run, or maybe not winning. I mean, I was going no matter what Dales did at third base.
And Skip, like, you were just sophomore in 2000. Mm-hmm. And I remember Skip telling me that you were going to play in the major leagues because you had the speed and the range to play shortstop or second base in the majors. But did he kind of ride you and he kind of rode the younger players? I know I was just talking to Pat Coogan, and he said that. How much did he get on you in your early years there?
Look, like early in my freshman year, I did stupid things like that freshmen do, and he never got on me about physical stuff, but he expected a whole lot. And I think Skip really respected the intensity and the tenacity and the will to win and the hard work. I mean, the intangible things that you really can't teach. I mean, I would say, there was a couple times throughout my tenure at LSU where he really, really got on me, but it was just instances where, like, he just expected more of me. And I think he wanted me to know that I could do it. But let me say this, every single time he did, and this was kind of one of his great character traits, he would tear you down, but he would build you back up. Mm-hmm. He would not continue to beat on you. There was the time where I made 4 errors in one game, Glenn. You would probably crush me in the paper. But we were playing Tulane as my freshman year, and I made 4 errors. And then after that game, he told me I was the worst infielder he'd ever coached. Like, literally, Little League, high school, junior college. There was not an infielder that was worse than me. And of course, everybody loved that, and they were cracking up laughing. And some people that would get to him a little bit. But the next day, I had a pretty good game. He put me back in the lineup. It wasn't, I'm going to sit him on the bench for a little while. I right back in the lineup, had a pretty good game. And, after that game, he put his arm around me, gave me the game ball, told me he loved me in front of the whole team.
Wow.
So little things like that where I knew he was in my corner, he just, wanted the best for me.
Well, I didn't rip you. I wasn't covering the team yet. The 4 errors. And that was pre-NIL. I didn't rip young players.
Oh, good. It was bad, buddy.
Brian, I think you mentioned this. I saw you quoted in this, I think last week on the day that that Skip passed away. The number of fathers, husbands, businessmen, athletes that he shaped, it's countless, isn't it?
I think we would be hard-pressed to find someone that's influenced our city more than Skip Bertman. And I'm being serious. If you think back, I went to the games when I was a kid when nobody was in the stands. But you talk about the economics of LSU baseball, the pride that it has brought to this state. I say Baton Rouge, but really it's the whole state. And then what he's done for actually the game of college baseball economically. You look at some of these stadiums where I don't think they would be that way. And then he's got a 10-year athletic director where he makes a few extremely influential decisions and pushes some things across the finish line that allowed football and all the sports here, to really, really thrive where they needed him to do that. He was the only one that could. I mean, just ask all the female sport coaches that were around when Skip was here, how important he was. I always say this too, if they know you by your first name, guys, you did something right.
Yep. Well, Ryan, thank you very much for joining us and talking about Skip Bertman. I know a man that you deeply love and respect, and we really appreciate your time here tonight.
Well, thank you all for giving me some time to do it.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it.
Ryan Theriot. We'll take a break. Doug Thompson will join us when we come back here on Tiger Rag Radio.
The East Baton Rouge Parish Library believes that supporting the education of students is good for us all. That's why we provide access to live, in-person, online tutoring through Homework Louisiana. Make available free test preparation tools through Learning Express and Mometrics. Plus, reference tools for all ages. Get a library card. Get free education at ebrpl.com/homeworkhelp.
Tiger Rag Radio is back on the air.
97.
Back here on Tiger Rag Radio, Jeff Palermo, News and Sports Director of Louisiana Radio Network, along with the editor for Tiger Rag Magazine, Glenn Guilbeau. Joining us now, he is a member of the 1997 College World Series championship team. In fact, was the winning pitcher in the championship game that year, and that is Doug Thompson, who joins us here on Tiger Rag Radio as we continue to look back at the great life of Skip Bertman. Doug, thanks a lot for spending some time with us tonight. How you doing?
I'm doing, all things considered, doing pretty good. Out here watching one of my sons play a little football, so things could be worse for sure, but I appreciate you guys, Glenn and Jeff, giving this opportunity for us to talk about, of course, Coach and, the upcoming events to celebrate his life.
Man, you got so many great stories, and I've always enjoyed in my time that I've known you, all the great Skip stories that you have told me. But I think one of my favorite, and we talked a little bit about this at the start of the show, and Glenn mentioned it, how Skip had this ability to see in the future at times. And he did that for you towards the end of the 1997 regular season. You guys are getting pounded by Alabama in the final weekend series of the year. You ended up losing that game 28-2, which is an amazing a score. But tell us, you pick up the story from there. I don't want to give away all the details, but Skip comes out and takes you out of the game, and what happens from there?
Well, first of all, I'll start with it's no coincidence that you bring that story up. It is the one Coach Bertman actually often asks me to retell because it's such an unusual and extraordinary. It's just such an unusual story, especially in today's world, right, where things like that just don't happen anymore. But yes, we went to Alabama for the final weekend of the regular season in 1997. And all we had to do was beat Alabama one time in the 3-game series to win the SEC outright, despite whatever happened across the league. Well, the opening night, our ace, Patrick Coogan, took the mound, one of the best Friday night starters in the history of the program, and he pitched just a spectacular game. They hit a late solo home run, as I recall, like a heartbreaker for us, maybe in the bottom of the 8th type thing, to take a 1-run lead. I want to say we lost 3-2 or 2-1. It was really close.
6-4. 6-4.
Okay, yeah, it was a heartbreaker the way we lost. I knew that it was really close though. The next day, I was the starter, and the first inning gave up 2 runs. We hit a solo home run in the the top of the first. Brandon Larson, thanks to Brandon Larson, and then I gave up a grand slam in the second inning. I want to say there was 2 outs. I'm not really sure, but when Coach Bertman came to pull me out of the game, he didn't point to the bullpen immediately. He was still thinking about what he wanted to do, and I was trying to convince him to let me eat up more outs. And I reminded him that we hit a bunch of home runs, and we were going to hit a bunch of home runs, and we're going to come back and win this game because you guys remember that season. I really did think we were still going to win the game, despite the score being 6-1 or whatever it was when he pulled me out of the game. But he told me, he said, "Listen, I've got to give your outfielders a little bit of a rest here. They're tired of running to the fences." And tomorrow I'm going to bring you back to win the SEC. And at that time, he made the call to the bullpen. And as you said, it ended up being 28-2 that day. Actually, he said, "You got to trust me. It's going to be bad today. I'm going to bring you back tomorrow and bring the SEC." And I thought that was kind of a weird thing to say. And after the game, when it was 28-2, I was kind of with Conan Horton, the catcher, I can't believe he said it was going to be bad today. It's like he knew,
He did.
And it really was. Well, the next day, to be honest with you, I honestly thought he mentioned the whole "I'll bring you back tomorrow" just to keep me from losing my mind, right?
Yeah,
I was pretty upset being pulled in the second inning, felt like I left the team down, et cetera. And I honest to God, I didn't even put on my spikes that day, to be honest with you. I had my tennis shoes on. And in about the 4th inning, I don't remember exactly what inning it was, to be honest with you, the pitcher threw 2 balls to the first batter of the inning, ball 1, ball 2, it was 2-0. And he looked down the dugout and he said, "Hey, Thompson, did you think I was screwing around yesterday? Get your ass down to the bullpen and get loose and
put your cleats on."
I did.
Put your spikes on.
I threw my spikes on as fast as I could. I sprinted down to the bullpen and started getting loose. And the next thing you know, he was serious. I was really coming in the game. And we had, I don't remember the score, maybe 4-2, maybe 4-1, maybe 5. I don't really remember the details, but I do remember it was still fairly close. And the bases were, I don't remember how many on, but I do remember seeing the Alabama players fighting at the bat rack to be the next batter because I wasn't real effective the day before, needless to say.
They're putting him back in?
Exactly. And Coach Bertman said, "You got 1 hit and you're out." And I didn't hear exactly what he said, so I asked him to repeat himself, and he did that in a very colorful way. So I was crystal clear on what he said. And there were 2 guys, Brian Daugherty and Chris Demui, already warming up in the bullpen. And before I even threw a warm-up pitch, he came back to the mound and said, "1 hit, and I'm going to pull you out of the game. Do you hear me?" I said, "Yeah, I got it. Okay. I got it. Okay, so tell people, how how they always say you got to visualize and, the only way for success, you got to visualize success. Well, that's not necessarily true because I truly was visualizing throwing 1 pitch, giving up a line drive right back up the middle and getting pulled from the game. I honestly thought that was going to be what happened, right? Well, I somehow get out of that inning and all the way to the 9th without allowing a hit. Now,
wow.
I don't remember being let me finish, Jeff. I don't remember being particularly dominant. We had a great offense, but we had some incredible athletes and some guys that could really make plays on that team too. So I think there was some luck, maybe some line drives right at people, et cetera. But I want to say it was 4 or 5 innings after he put me in the game. There were 2 outs in the 9th inning. I can vividly remember thinking like, wow, I'm actually going to be out here on the mound for a championship. This is going to be amazing. And I gave up a ground ball in the 6 hole to Brandon Larson, fielded it on the backhand, made a beautiful throw to first base. Eddie stretched all the way out to catch it in. A little home cook, and the umpire called Joe Caruso safe at first with an infield single, 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th. So I towed the rubber again, thinking I'm going to finish this thing, and here comes Skip, and he's taking his sweet time. He still hasn't made a call to the bullpen when he gets to the mound, which, you know, if you know baseball, you know, as a starting pitcher for a pitcher, you know for sure you might have a chance, right, to talk him into this thing, right? Well, of course I did, and I'm doing everything. Coach, let me finish this thing. I want to win a championship. But come on, Coach, let me finish. And he's looking down to the bullpen, and he's sucking through his teeth. You know how he kind of used to think through what's going on. He was taking in the moment, and he said, "Dougie boy, do you remember yesterday?" This is in front of 8,000 people. Alabama is ranked number 2 in the country. We're ranked this is the biggest game in America. Yeah. And LSU is on the brink. We're 1 out away from winning the SEC championship, right? And he says, as calmly as he possibly can in the middle of all of this, he says, do you remember yesterday when I told you that I was going to bring you back to win the SEC today? And I said, yes, sir. Thinking, of course, he's going to say, let's do it, Dougie boy. And I said, yes, sir. And he said, well, do you remember today when I told you I was going to take you out of the game after you gave up a hit? And I said, yes, sir. And he said, Dougie boy, we got to see if Demouy can close this thing out. Go ice your arm and get ready for a championship celebration. That's exactly how that went down.
Oh, man.
And he pulled me out of the game with a guy at first, and Chris Demouy came in and slammed the door shut for us to win. And you know what? Something tells me, guys, if he'd have kept me in that game, I would have given up a 2-run home run to probably lose the lead. There's just something about the moves he made when he made them. But that is truly one of the stories Skip would often reference at lunches and dinner because, it's an unusual thing to bring a starter back in the next day. Yeah. And then the way it all worked out. He predicted it, and it happened. And there's only one guy I know that can do that.
Hey, Doug, do you mind if we take a quick little break here and then come back and we'll talk a little bit more? That's just an unbelievable story, and it gets better and better every time I hear it. It's just a great story. Doug Thomspon joining us. Doug Thomspon joining us here on Tiger Rag Radio. Let's take a quick break and continue our conversation as we continue to remember Skip Bertman, one of the best to ever be a part of LSU.
Now, back to Tiger Rag Radio.
Back here on Tiger Rag Radio as we continue to remember the great Skip Bertman. Of course, there will be a celebration of life ceremony a week from tonight, Tuesday night, the same time we're on air here at Tiger Rag Radio. But tonight and we'll talk a little football a little bit later on and maybe some other things, but we certainly want to dedicate most of tonight's show to Skip Bertman, and Doug Thomspon joining us for another segment. And Doug, again, a terrific story about that final weekend, regular season in Tuscaloosa against Alabama. But what kind of impact has he had on your life? And even and I know you're thinking about him a lot more now that he's gone, but just during the course of your adult life, how many times a situation would arise, whether it's with your kids or whatever it may be, professionally, and you would say, well, you can almost hear Skip Bertman in your head.
No, I mean, Jeff, I haven't done. This is the first time I've gone on with anybody to talk about things like that. I'm not real sure that I'm even in a place to put that into words. But I will say, I'm trying to focus on the fact that I had a special relationship with Coach, like so many others. I'm trying to focus on the fact that my kids got to know him and have many, many conversations with him and got to visit with him at his house and understand who he is, because understanding who he is helps them understand me more. Because their whole life, they've heard, right now, my high school son, right? We still talk to this day about the anything you vividly imagine, sincerely believe. I've always told my son belief Coach Bertman would tell you, belief is the hardest one, especially in baseball, to continue. And so it's been infinite and immeasurable in terms of how he's affected my life. He's the most important man in my life, right there with my dad. And just here's the weird thing, man. Here's what I've been struggling with the last 4 or 5 days. A lot of former teammates and my buddies, are aware that over the last several years, I've been around Coach a lot and been there to help him in and out of places and driven him places and things of that nature. But what's been really difficult is, seeing a guy like Brandon Larson's name pop up on my phone. I couldn't answer it the first time because I was choked up and I couldn't talk. And it wasn't because the only reason was because I know how bad he's hurting. And I know how much he loved that guy, and then vice versa, right? I know Coach Bertman cared a great deal for him, but it's really awkward to answer that call and that guy be concerned with me and how I'm doing when I know he's as gutted as I am, right? And that goes for everyone. I mean, this isn't just people that played for him. This is people that worked in the athletic department for him. It's really, honestly, for pretty much anyone who's ever met him, because he's never met someone that he didn't make feel like $1 million. And he was the best at that. And he loved people and he loved to be around people. And he never greeted someone half-heartedly. And for me, that's what I want to, that's the things that I want to be better at. I want to be better at the way he treated people. What I'm most proud of is to be a small part of what he was most proud of, which was the last 30 years of his life, really constantly being surrounded by his teammates, and by his former players, and by coaches that coach with him, and people that he worked at the athletic department with. Verge and Jay and many, many others from the athletic department would frequently go pick up Coach Bertman and bring him down to lunch at Mike Anderson's. By the way, the people at Mike Anderson's, Mr. Mike, all of them have literally made that his home away from home for the past 3 or 4 years, and they've treated him like an absolute king. And those people, if anybody from that group is listening, sincerely from the bottom of my heart, and hundreds of teammates and people that have had lunches and dinners there with them, thank you for rolling out the red carpet and making sure that Skip Bertman is taken care of. And I'm going to miss those things. But I'm proud to be part of that. And the reason is because I heard him say hundreds of times that was what, of all the championships and all the wins, the relationships that he still had 30 and 40 years later with players was what he was most proud of. It's what, if he were to brag about anything, it would never be 870 wins or 5 national championships. It would be the relationship that he had with his boys. So I'm trying to really focus on those things more so than how sad I am because of how much I'm going to miss him. And I know a lot of people are trying to kind of struggle through that. And Jeff and Glenn, the same with you guys, right? Like it feels awkward for me to talk to you guys and not ask you how you're doing, right? Because this man tremendously affected all of us in such an incredibly positive way. And I'm just going to miss the heck out of him. And he was my mentor. He was like a grandfather. And the last 4 or 5 years of his life, he sincerely became one of my best friends, if not my best friend. And for that, there's no way that I can let myself shed any tears anymore. At least I'm just trying to focus on how unbelievably lucky I was.
Yeah.
Very, very well said, Doug. And the the amazing thing too is Skip also kept up with those guys from Miami Beach High who won the state title like in 1970. Those guys were at the games sometimes in his last years, and then they were at some of the reunions too, and all over the documentary on Skip, the Hold the Ropes documentary. So yeah, he really, it's amazing how often he would get called by players too, just out of the blue. Doug, I remember interviewing him in his kitchen, and Doug's on the phone, or Chad's on the phone, or Warren's on the phone. You know, it was amazing.
It's nonstop, and man, I'm telling you, when I would be visiting with him, watching a game, and those phone calls would come in to watch him light up for every single guy, he would answer the phone, and whatever. What for me, it was Dougie boy, right? Like he had that for everyone, right? And he made everyone feel so incredibly special. As a coach, he did it a little bit differently than others in terms of motivation, but he was the greatest of all time at that. So, look, we could literally talk about Skip Bertman, his legacy, his impact on my life, my teammates' lives, his family, the university, the people of Louisiana. I mean, we could go as deep as you want, really. But the truth is, what I'd like to talk about, while I'm sure that you guys have Todd and Ryan coming on, and I want those guys to be able to come on too, unless you can figure out a way for all of us to stay, because I'll stay all night and talk about Skip. But there's an event coming up on the 25th, and I know that it's out there and it's public, and I'm so glad for that because, man, we're sitting here talking about this man, and I don't think it's debatable. Glenn, you've watched a lot of LSU sports. Jeff, you the same. Like, I don't think it's debatable that any one player has ever impacted our university, certainly our athletic department, but the university, or any one person, I should say, more than Skip Bertman. And I even think there's some debate there in terms of the state. Like, I don't know that many people have influenced or represented our state on the national level as long as Skip Bertman has, right? So he's an icon for our state, obviously for the university, but man, I'm telling you, working with the family and several former players and so many wonderful people, you know, starting with the people at LSU Verge, as you would imagine, Skip Bertman means the world to Verge. And it didn't take long for us to be, or the family, I should say, to be very clear that LSU was going to do whatever they were asked to do to celebrate this man. So at the PMAC on the 25th, the doors will open for the general public at 6:00. Are we being cut off here?
That's the music. That's the music.
All right.
We got to take one more break here, and then we got Todd coming on. You want to keep him on?
Can he stay on while Todd's on?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it.
If you don't mind, Doug. All right, let's take it. Let's take this break, and then we'll wrap up hour one.
Y'all ready? Yeah. Let's go. Come on.
Tiger Rag Radio is on the air.
Let's crank this thing up.
We're statewide, breaking down the latest happenings with LSU Athletics.
This is us.
Hear from the coaches.
Our time is now with LSU basketball.
The players.
Having fun and we working, baby. That's it, baby.
The recruits.
One way or another, we're going to make history.
And those who cover the Fighting Tigers of LSU and the SEC.
LSU is the best job in football.
It's 2 hours of nonstop LSU talk.
I came here to win. We're going to win immediately.
Tiger Rag Radio is brought to you by Cummins. Cummins creates power solutions that the world depends on. Louisiana Beef Industry Council, D-D Breaux Electrical Services, and Louisiana Farm Bureau Federation. Get ready to talk Tigers with producer Case Kieschnick and our hosts, Todd Horn, Jeff Palermo, and Glenn Gilbo.
These are players that are better people than they are players.
This is Tiger Rag Radio.
All right, let's get into the second hour here. We still have Doug Thomspon on the line, and also joining us now is the 1993 SEC Player of the Year, the College Baseball Hall of Famer, Todd Walker. This is Jeff Palermo along with Glenn Gilbo. Guys, it's great to have all of you on. I know Doug's only going to stay with us for a few minutes, but we had, unfortunately, just because of breaks, and we gotta pay the groceries, I guess, as Skip would say. Doug was talking about the celebration of life that's going to be taking place at the Maravich Assembly Center next Tuesday. And I know you wanted to say a little bit more about that, Doug, and then say hello to Todd as well.
I do. First of all, how you doing, Todd? Hope you're doing well, buddy. I know that you've had a couple losses here recently, man, and I've been praying for you and your family after you lost your dad recently.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. It's been a rough month for sure. It starts to make you start to really think about mortality. I thought about life a lot more than I probably should, because you feel like all these moments will last forever. Like my 3 years at LSU, I feel like I just left, and then when things like this happen, it forces you into a reality to where you don't want to go, but it goes without saying, Skip was like a father figure to me.
Yeah, for sure, man. And I know how much he loved you and how much you loved Tim and all that stuff. And I miss you, brother. And I've been thinking about you before all this, and of course a lot during it. And I can't wait to see you, unfortunately, under these circumstances. But it's just a tough one. You're right. And speaking of that, I'm hoping you're able to make it. I wanted to just talk a little bit about the event on August 25th. So many people have been really working to make it an event worthy of Skip Bertman, which is a one-of-one event. I think it's going to be unbelievable. And, what I wanted to say was, what makes LSU special, especially when you talk about LSU athletics, is what we do here is we show up. I mean, if we're in Omaha, we show up. And Hoover, a big bowl game, even big road games. It's no secret. If you're watching a game on TV and the Tigers are on the road, then one of those commentators are going to talk about how well represented LSU is. And man, when you really think about LSU and the history of LSU athletics and how Skip Bertman relates to that, if LSU fans ever showed up, then the 25th at that PMAC should be the night. I mean, there's 11,000 potential spots in there. It's first come, first serve, of course. But, man, if somehow there aren't people out there on the ramps for this evening to celebrate this great man, something's not right. I mean, this is our opportunity. I just learned that the SEC Network, Todd, you probably knew that, is going to broadcast this. ESPN Plus is going to broadcast it. And it's an unbelievable opportunity for our community, for our school, to show the rest of the world how we do it here and how it's why we're so unique. It really does give us this incredible moment to pay honor to this man. And I just can't think of a reason that the PMAC would be as packed as it would be for this event. Not even Bon Jovi, Todd, would I think could sell out the PMAC like Skip Bertman will on this night. And I know I can speak for Todd. I can't tell you how much pride, just imagining myself sitting there that night, I can't tell you how much pride I'll have if that place is busting at the seams. It'll be tough for me to sit there with dry eyes, to be honest with you. And I know every player would feel the same way. So if you want to show your respect for Skip Bertman, what he built with all those championships, which is, of course, completely secondary to who the man was as a human being, that night on August 25th is the night to do it. And I just really hope that the LSU community shows up and do what they do that night. And I hope to see you guys there, Todd. I hope to see you there. And I just hope it's I hope it ends up being an historic event at the Pistol Pete Maravich Assembly Center.
I will definitely be there. Number one, when you mentioned Bon Jovi, it makes me think Garth Brooks did a concert at the PMAC, and the one person he sought out was Skip Bertman. Like, he was like the special guest, I remember, when I was playing there, of Garth Brooks, and we remember thinking, all right, we knew he was legendary, but this catapults him into a whole nother realm. The other thing, guys, Jeff and Glenn, I don't know if you've heard Doug's recruiting story, but it's the greatest story ever, not only for how funny it is, but it epitomizes Skip. We knew he was great on the field with the X's and the O's and everything else, but Doug, have you told them this story?
Well, I know, but the truth is, Theriot the other night and I were talking, he said, two types of players that played for Skip. One that loved him, of course, that's 99% of us, right? And then there's some guys that just didn't melt well with Skip. And Ryan was trying to understand that. He said he was thinking about, like, why would those guys, how can you not like this guy? And the truth is those guys didn't like the truth. And the players that did perform for him and play well for him could handle the truth. And that man told me and my mother on my recruiting visit that despite Ron Polk telling me the week before that I was going to be the missing key for Mississippi State to get to Omaha, he looked us dead in our eyes and told us he was going to go to Omaha with or without me. And and honestly, it's because he said that I was ready to sign that scholarship right then and there. And that's the type of player that he wanted. But he was so truthful. And even Pete Bush, Todd, a very similar story. He recruited him before Eddie got on campus. He told him, look, I'm going to bring you in. I've only got 2.5 players. That's Todd Walker and Russ Johnson and Jason Williams is the half player. We're going to make it to Omaha. We're going to lose. And then the next year, you're not going to play very much because the kid I have coming in next year is better than you. And that's literally what he told the guy on his recruiting visit. And, of course, he got Jeremy Moore to stay with that as well. But the man was truly a one of one, Todd. And I said earlier, I just keep trying to focus on how lucky we were to have been a part of his story, man.
Oh, gosh. I think about, I was praying a lot about where I would go out of high school. I had a full ride to Oklahoma State, a full ride to A&M, and 20% to go to LSU. And I thought, oh, wow. Well, that's a big story for Skip. If you know Skip at all, then you know that fits it pretty perfectly. And so as a 18-year-old impressionable kid, obviously you're going to chase the money, and we didn't have NIL back then, but that was my deal. But I just, I talked to Skip. He was he was at Natchitoches, I think, at a hotel, and they were about to line up against Northwestern State the next day or whatever. And we had a brief conversation. This, by the way, was prior to their first national championship in 1991. This was February of 91. They win it in June. But I signed because, just the few moments I got to spend with Skip and like his knowledge of the game, I'd never heard any of this stuff before. And then Beetle Bailey was a big part of that process as well, and Smoke Laval and Dan Canterbury, Mike Bianco at the time. So the cast of characters we had around the LSU baseball program at that time, now it's pretty common that, the knowledge in the game now in college baseball is off the charts. Back then it wasn't. So I knew I was stepping into something special. And then, of course, they win it in 91. We won it in 93, and they rattle off 5 in the next 10 years.
Todd, when you talked to Skip in the hotel in Natchitoches, did he also tell you what he told Doug? Look, you can come to LSU, but if you don't, we're going to win anyway. Did he say something like that?
He did not. Doug watered that story down. I love it when he tells it better. Like, Skip said, let me guess. Ron Polk said, you're the missing link. And he goes, yeah, that's what he said.
Literally,
yeah. Like, we're going to win in Omaha because you're with us. Yeah, that's what he said. He goes, well, look, here's the deal. Yeah, we're going to Omaha with or without you. I think it's great. He didn't say that in so many words, but I knew that they didn't need me, And by the way, it wasn't until much, much later that he told me, he goes, we took a chance on you. You were 6 foot, 180 pounds with a broken wing. I had a rotator surgery before my senior year, so I moved from the left side of the infield to the right. And, of course, we had one of the greatest shortstops ever that nobody's heard of in Russ Johnson, except for you guys. So I didn't have to play shortstop. I played second. But I had to do a serious amount of rehab on my arm just to get back. I mean, I remember the doctor telling me I had a 50-50 chance of ever playing baseball again. And that was in high school. So he told me that a few years later, and he was right, So, no, I knew, and Tookie Johnson was there right when I came after 91. So, they had some stars. And I was lined up 5 deep at second base when I first stepped on campus in the fall of 91. They just won the national championship. Mike Neal, a guy named Keon Cook, whose brother Toy Cook plays defensive back for the Saints.
Exactly.
So he was kind of a popular dude on the team, It was tough, and not only was I lined up 4 or 5 deep, I was number 4, so I would have to wait for my ground ball, 4 people. And Bertman was never out there; he was in his office all the time. So I was thinking, how am I ever going to make this team? Smoke's running all the show, out there. And then when you did see Skip, he had that big vanilla cell phone that was, the size of his head, and
from
he had
Wall
a big
Street,
head.
from Wall Street with Michael Douglas, the big phone.
That's right. So that was the visual I have of Skip Bertman sitting there with his legs crossed. If he wasn't smoking a cigar, then he had this big vanilla cell phone that nobody had. So he was rich, right? He was rich because nobody had those cell phones back then. And he finally came out and watched. So then, I got a little nervous, but man, I mean, that's what I wrote on Instagram. I said, it went from the most intimidating situation I've ever been involved in as a freshman when I first walked in. Because look, this guy was Caesar. This guy was like bigger than life. And coming from high school, you don't get in a room with those type of people, right? So when I was finally there, it was intimidating. To 3 years later, becoming a father figure and like one of my best friends, that's the person he was.
Wow. You were telling me on Friday you didn't even know how to wear your hat correctly. when you showed up on LSU's campus.
Go look at my freshman picture in the program. I'm sure it's online somewhere, and you'll see my bangs hanging out the top of my hat. I didn't even know how to tuck my bangs in my hat properly. I had like a pleather Kmart glove when I came to LSU. I had no idea about those type of things. So Skip taught me a lot about the technique and all. I could naturally I understood, using the entire field and not striking out. I wasn't very smart, but I knew if I put the ball in play, I had a chance. But he taught me about the American League, the National League, what gloves are nice, how to wear your hat properly, that type of stuff. And that's what I needed as a freshman.
Hey, guys, we could go on forever here. We got D-D Breaux that's coming on next, so we want to certainly give her a runway on this, but it was great catching up with both of you. I know Tuesday is going to be very emotional, but I think it's going to be a great night, just like you just mentioned, Doug. This is going to be one that I think a lot of people will remember for the rest of their lives, and it's a great opportunity to honor someone that has meant so much, not to obviously you two in particular, and Glenn, and really the entire community of Baton Rouge and the state of Louisiana. So we're really looking forward to that celebration of life ceremony.
Yeah, I am too. I'll see you guys next week.
Yep.
All right, guys, you have a good one.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Todd.
Thank you.
We'll catch up with you guys later. So good stuff from them. But as we mentioned early on in the show, another part of the legacy of Skip Bertman was his time as the athletics director. And what he did for women's sports, it does not get the attention that it deserves, but D-D Breaux will help give it the attention when we talk to her after this commercial break. So stay tuned for that here on Tiger Rag Radio.
I'm Richard Fontenot, president of the Louisiana Farm Bureau Federation. My brother and I grow rice, soybeans, and raise crawfish on our farm in Evangeline Parish. For a fourth-generation farmer like myself, Louisiana Farm Bureau is as much a part of my life as checking traps or harvesting rice. Our organization is more than 145,000 members strong, and we've been around for more than 100 years. The Louisiana Farm Bureau spans generations, and we want you to join our family.
Visit lafarmbureau.org. The Louisiana Farm Bureau Federation, the voice of Louisiana agriculture.
Tiger Rag Radio is back.
All right, it's been a great night already, and it's going to get better here with legendary LSU gymnastics coach D-D Breaux joining us here on Tiger Rag Radio. D-D, we don't have a lot of time here because we got coming up on another break in about 7 or 8 minutes, but we wanted to get you on because we're spending this show talking about Skip Bertman and what he meant not only to the LSU baseball program, the LSU athletic department, LSU, Baton Rouge, the state of Louisiana, but he had a profound effect on women's sports too at LSU. So if you could, Skip becomes athletic director in 2001. Do you remember that first meeting that you had with him?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I remember my first meeting with Skip. I remember the multiple endless meetings I had with him at his office or clandestine meetings in the field house or wherever it was. You're not giving me enough time to talk about the impact that atomic personality had on the athletic department and this community and baseball in America. I mean, he dotted every I, he crossed every T, and when he became the athletic director, he held everybody to the same standard of excellence that he held himself. And, I do a lot of public speaking, and I talk about everything counts, and he's the original everything counts. And, when I would sit and talk to him, he said, D-D, do what I do and do what I tell you to do, and you will be successful. And it became not a fight, because every time I went in with other athletic directors, it was a fight. And Skip changed that. And he said, whoa, we're not fighting about this. You tell me what you need, we're going to figure out a way to get it.
Wow.
And that was not just me. I mean, the impact that he had on our golf program, the impact he had on every sport, how he mentored and cajoled and pushed Yvette Girard to do everything that she did to build that incredible program that is now still thriving. So, you have to appreciate him in many, many more ways than just the X's and O's of bats and balls.
And you really started drawing crowds big time in your later years, and that was all you and your hustle, but that was from some of the things Skip told you, I would imagine.
Well, yeah, they talk about him having his kids on the street corner, giving out schedule cards. We did that every single week before we had a home meet. Mm-hmm. We did everything that they did, and we did it in spades.
Yeah.
Because when he came here, there might have been, people. I had lunch with a bunch of the old guys today, and they were saying, "Oh, we had 500 people when Skip got here." No. We had 50 people when Jim Smith was coaching. Because let's not forget, Jim Smith was sharing his time with equipment.
Right.
He was the equipment manager for football.
Football helmets were in his baseball office, right?
Yeah, and then in comes Jack LeMay, and what a great character he was. And he began to build because he was so delightful and so much fun. And, they were laughing today, Paul Maneri and Billy Guillot and Chris Guillot, Billy and Chris Guillot and Norman. They're laughing about the people that would come, and the students would come to study because it was so quiet at baseball. and nobody knows baseball better than Billy Guillot and Chris Guillot. I mean, they know it all. And, of course, Paul Maneri. Here's Paul sitting there. And we talked about that impact and that personality. You go to a restaurant with him, and he's making an influence on the people there. You go anywhere with him, and he is making an impact.
Yeah.
And the impact that he made on the women at LSU and women's athletics and the programs that had been underserved for years was he cared.
Yeah.
And when you care about something, you become effective.
Well, and
he cared, and he showed he cared.
And in their documentary, which was so well done, D-D, when he saw what you were making, and I can't remember if you had an assistant coach or maybe you did have an assistant coach.
By that time, I had wrangled and had a staff. By the time Skip came,
okay,
I had Bob Moore.
Yeah, all right.
Who was a fabulous, a great assistant coach, loyal assistant coach, and I had Larissa Libby, who was one of my former athletes. So I had a very good staff, but we needed more. You said, well, I don't need much. I just want more. But I had a staff, but we did not have the equipment that we needed to be successful. We weren't getting the uniforms and just the general day-to-day capital outlay.
Yeah.
Upgrading our equipment, our grips. I couldn't get grips in the middle of the season. It was awful. And Skip, I'd go talk to him, and he'd go, they mean well, D-D. I'll buy that. You tell me what you need, I'm going to buy it out of my booster club.
Wow.
And he would. And he would, give me this big, they mean well, D-D. You just calm down and let's just put your shoulder to the wall and push and do. And, you keep doing what you're doing. Well, then 3 weeks later, he'd come back and tell me, "Did you feel good? Everything going well?" "Yes, sir. Everything. Yeah, I'm good. Thank you."
He could get things done, man. Skip got things done.
I'm glad you feel better, D-D, because that was all BS. Just getting you over the hump, just not letting them beat you down. Yeah, but he was awesome.
D-D, thanks for spending a few minutes talking about him. I know he means the world to you, and it's great hearing your voice. And it'll be gymnastics season here before you know it. We appreciate your time.
Hey, and watch out, they're going to be awesome.
That's great. And
thanks,
you built it with Skip's help. We'll be back after this.
The East Baton Rouge Parish Library believes that supporting the education of students is good for us all. That's why we provide access to live, in-person, online tutoring through Homework Louisiana. Make available free test preparation tools through Learning Express and Mometrics. Plus, reference tools for all ages. Get a library card Get free education at ebrpl.com/homeworkhelp.
We're back to Tiger Rag Radio.
Well, it's been a fantastic show so far. Ryan Theriot, Doug Thomspon, Todd Walker, D-D Breaux. Let's bring in someone now as we continue to remember the life of the great Skip Bertman, who passed away last week at the age of 88. There will be a celebration of life ceremony inside the Pete Maravich Assembly Center next Tuesday night. And as Doug Thomspon was telling us, ESPN Plus is streaming it. It'll be on the SEC Network, as it should be, considering what this man has meant to college athletics and specifically college baseball, and someone that bleeds college baseball and breathes it. It's Mark Etheridge of D1Baseball.com. Mark, thanks a lot for joining us here on Tiger Rag Radio. How you doing?
I'm great. I'm honored to talk about Coach Bertman. He's such a giant in the sport, and just the impact that he's had. I'm love to talk about him.
How long have you been covering college baseball?
So I got into it in the late 90s, right as Coach Bertman was in his last few years as in the dugout before he moved up to AD. And we did have some interactions, back in that day. I was trying to start a publication, SC Baseball. You guys might remember it, Southeastern Baseball, where we covered, or basically I had a staff of guys trying to cover it and, hustling, trying to make it work. And, LSU had a large fan base. I needed to cover LSU. So I called down and tried to get an interview with Coach Bertman. And, that wasn't always easy to do. He didn't know me from anybody, really. And I was this young pup just trying to get started. And next thing you know, my phone's ringing, and there's that familiar voice on the other side. and I had this long list of questions, I wanted to go through and talk to him about it. Before we could even get into that, we had to visit, right? We had to talk about life and just go back and forth on all these different topics. And he really made me feel important.
Yeah.
Right. So then we get through the interview and we're trying to wrap up. And he says something to me that stuck with me. He's like, "Did I answer your questions?" And I'm like, yeah, you did. So you're going to be able to do a good job with this story. And I don't know, something about the way he worded it, and I'm not doing it justice, but the way he worded it made me feel so important that here this giant in the sport, and by that time he certainly was that, and here he was taking the time to make sure I had what I needed, and I was lucky to string two coherent sentences together right at that point in my career. So it was great just to, it's kind of a deal where he filled your cup. Right. And you took that and you were able to build from it, with just that conversation.
How do you think most of the nation views Skip? I mean, he was a rock star in Baton Rouge up until he passed. And the last game he coached was in 2001. But you wouldn't have realized that. Of course, he was AD, too, but he was so visible. How do you think, national writers and the national college baseball fans kind of viewed him as the years went on after he coached?
Well, certainly on the field we can separate the on the field from the personality, and just on the field, all the success, all the titles, and just what he built and turning LSU into just a regular program into I call it a behemoth, and I think that's accurate, right? And everyone realizes that he was the architect of that and got it going, and really was a big part of why college baseball caught on. I mean, certainly he had some help. Ron Frazier, Ron Polk. I mean, there are a lot of guys who would share in that credit, but Skip was at the forefront of that, and as a result, he's going to be remembered, on Mount Rushmore, for college baseball coaches. I think the other part of that is just his personality, and I don't know the right word, and I'm a words guy, but maybe it's like this masculine magnetism, right? Where you walk in a room and he's there, and maybe you stand up a little straighter, you think about what you're going to say, you make sure you got your firm handshake ready, all of these kinds of things that you prepare that you don't always do that with everyone that you meet, and he had that effect, and I'm not sure I can put a finger on what was so special that allowed him to pull that off when so many of us try, right? And he was able to do it without really even, it was just natural. It was just who he was.
And he had huge hands. He had catcher's mid hands, and he was a catcher. a very good and talented catcher at Miami Beach High when he was a player, and he probably could have gone pro, but he had some injuries and went. He always wanted to be a coach, though. But yeah, exactly. But you had a great piece on Skip that everybody should read. But what other coaches you think are like right there with Skip? When I've said arguably the greatest. Obviously. Augie Garrido won 5 as well over a longer period of time and in different eras, and then of course Coach Dito. How do you compare at USC won 11 championships? How do you compare and contrast the 3?
Yeah, I mean that those are, and they're so different too because of the eras. I mean, what Coach Dito did out at USC, I mean, they dominated. They won the whole thing. How many years in a row? It was a lot, right? But then the sport changed, and what Skip was able to do, and growing the sport and turning it into a spectator thing, right? And getting it on television. Those are the kinds of things that the softer part of his legacy, right? That makes him stand out. The marketing part, right? Making sure that fans have a good time at the game and making sure that they don't go away upset. We've all heard the stories about him checking the temperature of the hot chocolate, right?
Yeah.
Those kinds of things that really, I think, are part of what we're seeing, led to what we're seeing today with just the explosion of the sport. Certainly, Coach Polk at Mississippi State did a similar job, just trying to build something and turn it into, I mean, that's an incredible program as well. With Augie, he was such an interesting character as well. So you've got these larger than life personalities who also were super successful, and I do think the two go hand in hand because that allows you to resonate with the public, right? Because you've got these captivating personalities, and I certainly believe that led to all of their success, right? They are a big part of it. It wasn't just that they were good between the lines. They knew how to relate to people. They knew how to get people's attention, and all of that fed in to them becoming so successful.
Do you ever wonder, as much as you cover the sport market and we see how popular it is now, and I just think it's going to continue to grow. Baseball is becoming more of a popular sport, it seems like, and more schools are interested. But seeing where it is today, do you sometimes step back and say, man, Skip and Ron and some other guys, they're the ones that started this, and maybe they never envisioned it would be like how it is now. Like, opening day here in Baton Rouge it's an event. It's a huge event. Weekend SEC series. It's big time. Watching some of these super regional series. I think you had a chance to cover the Troy super regional series. Like that would have never been when you were starting SE baseball. No, there was no thinking that any of that would ever occur.
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, we were calling press boxes to get live scores. I mean, that's where we were. Right? So, I mean, it's come a long way. And now you're streaming all the games.
Yeah, right.
And that's been a huge game changer. And I also think that being able to move and have the development aspect of the sport now, where you're getting so many better high school players are taking the college route, and certainly LSU and Jay's doing a tremendous job of selling the LSU experience.
Yeah,
and a lot of that is because of what Coach Bertman was able, that foundation that was in place. And now look at what it's become, and it's a selling piece, man. I mean, who wouldn't want to play there Saturday night, and Mississippi State or Arkansas or Texas or somebody rolls in there, and that place is rocking.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Mark, we appreciate your time tonight. Thanks a lot for giving your perspective. That was a great story you told at the start of this interview when he had an opportunity to interview him as you were a young journalist, and I remember it too. I remember calling him up. I remember after the Arizona State series in 2000, one of the games ended in a tie because
with Pat Murphy.
Yeah,
Arizona State.
I called Skip, and I'm like, what? And this is obviously, I don't even know if the game was on the radio. I guess it was probably on the radio that day. but obviously no TV. I'm like, Skip, what happened here? How come you couldn't get the game? Because West Coast baseball and they take forever and all this and that. And it was just.
Oh, he was upset at Murphy. Murphy was stalling.
Yeah.
He was yelling at Murphy during the game. I was there. Yeah, it was funny.
So, but anyways, thanks, Mark, for your time, man. We'll certainly chat probably in January and February as we get ready for what should be a good LSU baseball team in 2027.
It should be a really good team. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Mark. Thanks a lot, man. We appreciate it. Good hearing from you. All right, let's go ahead and take another break. When we come back, more of Tiger Rag Radio after this.
This is Tiger Rag Radio.
Well, it's been a fun show, despite talking about a person that is no longer with us, and that being Skip Bertman. A lot of great guests tonight. If you missed any of it, it will be up at YouTube later tonight, anywhere you get your podcast. Certainly you'll want to listen back to Ryan Theriot, Doug Thomson, Todd Walker, D-D Breaux. We just had Mark Etheridge on from D1 Baseball giving their thoughts about Skip Bertman and what he meant to all of them. So been a terrific show. One thing that I never really thought of, and I've seen this a lot with people just posting it on social media, and these are, I would say, casual sports fans, if you would, saying the reason why I like baseball is because of Skip Bertman. He made me take interest in the sport. Now, winning obviously helps, right? Everybody loves a winner, and LSU won a lot in the 1990s, and it was hard not to get caught up in it. And I'd never thought about that before. I don't know why that never kind of clicked in my head. You know, why so many people, and maybe I'm talking more on, especially on the female perspective, that you would call casual sports fans. I saw a lot of that kind of statements being put out there, and I never really considered that before.
Well, one of the most amazing things about Skip is that, he came to LSU as a pitching coach, a pitching expert with the Miami Hurricanes, and his early teams. I mean, he put all kind of pitchers in Major League Baseball: Ben McDonald, Russell Springer, Curtis Laskanik, O'Donohue, Eric Hetzel, all kind of pitchers, and he kind of played a little small ball, and then he went total gorilla ball. He completely reversed. It was like it's like if Nick Saban woke up one day and became an offensive coordinator and started calling plays. But and I mean, he won the '96 World Series in the most dramatic and exciting fashion you could, and then he followed that in '97 with the team that still holds the record for home runs, 188. So those were two incredibly exciting teams, and the '98 team also hit a bunch of home runs too. And if you remember the opener of the World Series, that first Saturday in '98, they hit like 6 home runs. They had 6 different guys hit home runs. So I think that was very spectator friendly, and that really caught it on. And then of course they made the bats smaller, so he changed again and kind of went more pitching and not as much power, and won another national championship. So he was a very viewer friendly coach. The way his teams played, they were just really exciting, kind of risk taking teams, and those periods I just talked about. That's when the TV really started to catch on to baseball, and they switched from the 8-team regional to the 4 teams and super regional in 1999, and that was really a good idea. And then they switched to the 3-game championship series as well. So he was really in the middle of the sport becoming a TV sport.
He was a great coach. He was a great mentor, and he marketed the sport very well.
No question about it. He was like a businessman. When Todd said when he first started practice before his first season, Skip was never there. Yeah, because Skip was out getting money for the program and raising money and getting stuff built. He was having things built to that stadium every year and improving the coach's office.
Little playground for the kids and all that kind of stuff.
Every year they made the stadium bigger. And a lot of times he would show up at practice like with his briefcase and a suit on, and like at the end of practice, and he'd start telling them how to do this, and then he'd go change and come back. But he did it all. He was a great coach in the dugout. He was a motivator, and marketing.
Yeah. Man, it's amazing what the mark that he has left. Let's take our final break. We'll come back. We'll give some brief thoughts on football, and then we'll call the show. This has been Tiger Rag Radio. Stay tuned. One more segment to go.
How you doing? This is Snoop Dogg.
Tiger Rag Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you are tuned in.
Talk LSU sports, interviews, opinions, and your calls around the Tiger Nation.
Baton Rouge was a life for me. Home with LSU Tigers.
Now more Tiger Rag Radio.
We love to score and get highlights and championships and play to win.
Tiger Rag Radio.
Back here on Tiger Rag Radio. So brief synopsis on football. Nobody's gotten hurt. No major injuries. Sam Levitt's moving well. First team defense pushed the first team offense pretty good in the scrimmage on Saturday. I think those are all good things, Glenn.
Yeah. And there hasn't been any major developments.
Right.
And, there's been some guys they've looked at in the starting role.
Yeah.
They've been moving people around. Caden Durham has not been running with the first team a lot. But,
or the second team.
Right. But you never know. Sometimes they're just looking at guys.
Yeah.
But that has been consistent. And the offensive line looks good beyond just the starting five.
Mm-hmm.
You hear that a lot in August, but I think he does have maybe 6 or 7 guys that could really be dominant.
It's just so hard to tell. And I know there are some out there really trying to blow up these practice sessions that the media gets to see, but you really are not seeing anything.
No, you're not seeing anything. And when you leave, they could flip the guys.
Yeah, and so if someone was having a bad day or a good day, they were having like a bad or a good day for like 45 seconds.
Yeah.
And so it's tough. We just got to wait. And I think the biggest thing is to try to get through this thing injury-free and see what happens against Clemson. Since we've been talking about Skip Bertman, and it's been a terrific show, again, want to thank our guests, Ryan Theriot, Doug Thomspon, Todd Walker. It was great when we had Doug and Todd on, and then me and Glenn, we went out and had a drink.
They took over the show, man.
Came back. They were still talking. It was great. D-D Breaux, Mark Etheridge. So it was a terrific show, and I think it comes at a good time because obviously this state was saddened by the loss of Skip Bertman on Friday, and there's one other person I want to mention that also we've lost here recently, and that's Joe Dean Jr. It kind of he's not been in the limelight here lately. I understand he's had a lot of health issues in his final years in life. Of course, he is the son of Joe Dean Sr., the former LSU Athletic Director, and I got to know Joe Dean Jr. on a personal level when I was a young broadcaster and I was trying to learn and the tricks of the trade. I had the opportunity to do stats for some of the Jefferson Pilot games back then, and it was Joe Dean Jr. and Tim Brando were usually the broadcasting crew for those SEC games. And, Tim was Tim, right? I mean, he was the star, and so I was just a little pipsqueak kid out there. But Joe Dean Jr., he would certainly talk to me, and he would engage with me quite a bit. And he used to be, and Tiger Rag Radio has been going on for a long, long time. He used to be a frequent guest on this show when he was covering SEC basketball as a color analyst, and he passed away here recently at the age of 72.
Yeah, Joe Dean Jr. He was a Baton Rouge native, grew up in Baton Rouge, played basketball at Baton Rouge High with Jay Darden. They were teammates at Baton Rouge High in the 70s, and Joe Dean Jr. played at Mississippi State, was the starting guard for Mississippi State for Kermit Davis Sr. Kermit Davis' son, Kermit Davis Jr., was an assistant coach under John Brady. And John Brady and Joe Dean Jr. were graduate assistants at Mississippi State at the same time in the 70s and became great friends. John used to come with Joe Dean Jr. to Baton Rouge and stay at the Dean household, and he became friends with Joe Dean Sr. That helped him eventually get the job at LSU. Joe Dean Jr. was an assistant basketball coach at Kentucky under Joe B. Hall during the great rivalry years of Dale Brown versus Joe B. Hall, LSU and Kentucky years. And then he was a coach at Birmingham Southern. He was AD at Birmingham Southern, then went into business and broadcasting. He actually did Auburn color when I was covering Auburn for the Mobile paper when Cliff Ellis was the coach. But, just a wealth of information. Nice guy. His son Scott Dean was in the LSU Sports Information Office for years as a student assistant when Herb Vincent was the SID and with Michael Bonnet as well. So just a great guy and Baton Rouge native and SEC expert.
Yes,
was friends with Sean Toohey and the former Ole Miss guard and Jimmy Sexton as well. Just a lot of contacts.
Right.
Great guy.
Well, we'll be back with you again next Tuesday night here on Tiger Rag Radio. Of course, that'll be also the same night as the celebration of life for Skip Bertman, so we'll figure out how to integrate the two. But until then, check out all the great stuff at TigerRag.com. If you missed any of this show, you can get it anywhere you get your podcast, or it'll be posted up to YouTube here soon. For Case Kieschnick, Glenn Gilbo, I'm Jeff Palermo. Have a great night, everyone.
Tiger Rag is everywhere. Online at TigerRag.com. Like us on Facebook at Facebook.com/Tiger Rag Magazine, or follow us on Twitter at Tiger_Rag.